I will say this point blank, that consortium is not representative of the borough. It needs a genuine freshening up. I think it's somewhat out of touch. You are going to struggle to connect with people. And that's the biggest problem with the organisation.
This is the Disconnected Bodies podcast, hosted by Pablo Colella. Deep dives for the curious creative.
In this episode, I'm speaking to Vish Makol, a connector, investor and creative with a diverse background across business and entrepreneurship. In recent years, he's focused his work on grassroots art and culture, particularly in his hometown of Hounslow. Vish collaborates with local creatives, community groups, social enterprises and venues to help bridge the gap across the borough's creative ecosystems, fostering meaningful connections and sustainable impact.
It was a hybrid role, essentially. It was weird. I kind of had half my foot in Hounslow CPP, Creative People and Places, and was also working for Hounslow's Creative Enterprise Zone, which is a mayoral initiative that is in around London, where they identify different pockets of London where they identify a certain type of artistic skill or culture in that area and then try and kind of push that forward. So I was kind of married to both sides and trying to bridge certain gaps across the borough, which I'm sure we'll get into. But yeah, that role I was doing for about 18 months or so, and a really, really enjoyable role. The beauty of the role, without making it sound too kind of like corporate or anything like that, is just that it was a people-based role. It allowed me to connect with creatives and artists alike up and down the borough that I did not know were there, and really indulge in people's stories and make a lot of friendships, like with you, for example.
Yeah.
And so it really allowed me to really understand Hounslow from a different perspective. I'd always been there as a resident, for over 30 years. Always had a creative kind of inkling in myself and tried to find spaces to do things that weren't there. And then to jump into this role and realize that there are so many artists and creatives and all sorts of different people up and down the borough was really, really rewarding and fulfilling, and just really beautiful to kind of experience and see, and kind of see my borough in like a different light.
And I remember when we first spoke, one of the first things you said was Hounslow, because of just its location in London. One side you've got, say, Feltham, and then the other side you've got Brentford and the Kew side.
Yeah.
And the difference between the two areas and the different types of people in both, and how do you bring that together?
It's a big borough, and because I kind of very cheekily tried to almost compare it to New York a little bit and say, like, how New York has like 5 boroughs. Hounslow obviously is not New York, but it has various different segmentations. Like you just said, Feltham, Hounslow Central, then you've got Brentford leading into Chiswick, and then you've got pockets like Osterley and Heston and Isleworth and all this sort of stuff. So because no one really wants to shout out that they're from Hounslow, they will refer to their kind of local town, whether it's Feltham or Chiswick or whatever. And that obviously gives a different perception of the borough. And one thing I was key to do with some of the events that I put on and some of the activations we were involved in is try and get as many representations from all those different bits of Hounslow to kind of unify things a bit more and kind of connect things across the borough. If you're from Hounslow Central, you think Hounslow is just Hounslow Central. Right. If you're from Feltham, you think you're just from Feltham. And rightly so, people have different, they're all very different places within the borough. But I was trying to connect the dots across to really see if we can kind of help rise all the ships, shall we say. And again, the beautiful thing was there were creatives and artists in all different bits doing different things. And it was nice through some of my events, which, again, I'm sure we'll talk about at some point, seeing someone from Brentford connect with Feltham, someone from Isleworth connect with Osterley, someone from Heston connect with Chiswick, for example, and all those sorts of things. But yeah, it's a tough ask, because then the bigger the borough is, the more people there are people willing to travel and make the effort, are people willing to connect? People have a misperception of certain segments of the borough, and then those sort of kind of percolate through your mind when making decisions on whether to activate and connect. So, yeah, that it was a bit of an uphill battle in that sense. But what I've found with creatives and artists is that there's an appetite to connect. There's an appetite to make new friends. So as that was growing with each event and each sort of kind of month-to-month activation, it was really refreshing to see that people didn't really care about the boundaries as much. They would care about the art and the actual contribution to the culture, and started to create a community that was active and making a splash, shall we say.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So let's talk about the Hounslow Connects whilst we're
Yeah.
on that, joining people.
Yeah.
Because that was really, I think that was so important. So I think they ran, I know I went to a few of them. I think they were running before I went, and the feedback that I was hearing was positive. Like, were you getting positive?
So let me just rewind ever so slightly to kind of give how that came about,
Yeah.
because that's something that I won't call it a brand, but I'll call it a community or a series of events. I was really, really proud of what we achieved and what we managed to do with those events. When I first got this position, I had a bit of an open, or how do you say it, an open sort of format to carve the role and nurture the role in any sort of way I wanted to a certain extent. Ticking a few boxes here and there. One of them was to create an event, maybe one event for the year, and get some creatives to that event. That's kind of what the brief was. I wanted to go above and beyond that. I didn't think that was enough. I wanted to really get people together on a regular basis and see if we can shine a light on artists and creatives, see if we can start educating some people, start bringing people together and exposing a different side to Hounslow, shining a light on a different side to Hounslow. That was the kind of fundamental thinking behind it. And now, initially, this kind of creative network that I was managing was already in existence, but had been dormant, I'd say, for about maybe a couple of years, maybe 1.5 years. So the first step was to essentially get in touch with that network, whether it's by email or with meetings and so forth, and start reminding people that, hey, we're active again, CPP exists, the Creative Enterprise Zone exists, and if you are an artist and you've got an idea or something to share or promote, tell me and I'll get it out to the network and we'll share it as far as we can. That network started to grow very quickly, and I thought, okay, this is great, so now it's time to put together an event. Let's put on an art exhibition, for example. So I reached out to a few artists across the borough, and let's just say the arts in Hounslow was kind of Brentford centric, and I wanted to kind of break that down a little bit and kind of make it accessible to people on the other parts of the borough, Feltham, Heston, Hounslow, etc. So I come up with this idea to go, cool, let's put together this kind of series of networking events called Hounslow Connects. I thought, I like the name. I want Hounslow to be in the name. I want the word connects is kind of like, says what it is on the tin sort of thing. And cool, we'll get a new logo, we'll refresh this network, and we'll start giving it like a physical presence through these events. The first event, I believe, was November 7th, 2023, and it was centered around artists. And like I said, a lot of art opportunities are kind of concentrated in certain parts of the borough. I wanted to break that down. So I reached out to artists who had either never exhibited before or never kind of shown their work to anyone. And I thought, okay, cool, this is nice. Let's get people, people facing, let's put them out there. And we had one artist who had never, ever shown her work anywhere. We had one artist who'd only been painting for a couple of years. And then very beautifully, we had actually one woman show the artwork of her daughters, who was, I believe, 8 or 9 at the time, and incredible artwork. And so I just thought there was a great variety there. And then you reach out to artists and you reach out to other people to come attend from the community. And it was just a very, very lovely evening of people experiencing artwork, experiencing connections with other creatives with different backgrounds. And that just gave me a bit of a taste of like, okay, there's appetite here, And what was beautiful about the feedback we were getting is that nothing came across pretentious. Nothing came across like, hey, look at us. I kept cold emailing people to come and attend by just saying, hey, come and make friends. This is not for work. This is not a subscription. This is not something you have to go and take notes. Just come at your leisure, make some friends, see some artwork on the at the same time. And the feedback was really good. Artists made sales. Bear in mind, no charge for the artists, no fees involved. They're free to sell as they wish. Through our budgets, we had paid for content creation, which artists had access to. So we tried to, again, make it all about the artists. We don't take nothing out of their pockets and then just kind of see where we land. That first event went really well that we were like, oh, okay, so now there's appetite. Maybe let's do more. And then that led on to film screening events, poetry nights, more artist exhibitions, knowledge sharing events. We just created this momentum, and I wouldn't say in my heart I'm a creative, but out loud I say I'm maybe more of a curator. So it was fun for me to try and go, if we put one artist in that side of the room and then we get that type of artist over there, let's just see where the randomness goes. Let's get some DJs, let's get some samosas in the room, let's do it. And it's very important that I shout out a few people at this point. Obviously, none of these Hounslow Connects events would have been possible had it not been for the support of the primary venue that I used, which was Anima in Brentford. Umbika there really opened her doors. And what was beautiful is that she wanted the venue to be a space for artistic expression and storytelling. So we met through a mutual friend and ideas just connected. And she was like, look, I'm opening the doors to you. Do your thing, we'll make it happen. And so super grateful to Anima and Umbika and her team for allowing us to express ourselves there. And that then led on to, for the venue to do more things. So Hounslow Connects wasn't just an art exhibition. We did digital detox events where people would come and do workshops or get away from their phones, meditate, paint, etc., read, journal. We've had opportunities for artists to express things for Refugee Week and things of that nature. So it just really showed that there was appetite. It really showed that there was a willing business to indulge in culture and community and creative activations. And then because their venue is so beautiful, it just brought people forward, which allowed us to do so many other things under the kind of Hounslow Connects brand, also not brand, collective or community, whatever. We'll think of a name for it at some point. I also want to shout out the Creative Enterprise Zone because they were very gracious with a lot of budget in terms of content creation, because one of the biggest issues in the Hounslow Borough was that we were unable to market effectively. We were unable to let people know what we're doing. So I made a very big point of it, saying, listen, I need to film this. I need to take photos to show people what they're missing out on and to show people that, hey, there's cool things happening in the borough. So the Creative Enterprise Zone for Hounslow, Tom Brooks, was very, very helpful in allowing and supportive in allowing me to execute that. Sim, who you know very well, who just captured every event beautifully with photos and the content and everything. So I got very lucky that there was a venue willing to allow me to express myself and curate these events. I was very lucky that we got the support from the Creative Enterprise Zone to film and create content, and then very lucky to bump into Sim and build a friendship with him to actually kind of, showcase, and there are loads of other people, I won't name everyone, who were contributing to the events, helped putting together, my good friend Kai Sublime, who helped put the poetry nights together, loads of great workshop facilitators who helped put together for the digital detox events and stuff. So it literally was what the name suggested, Hounslow Connects. We were just trying to get people in and around the borough to come through. And then what really hit for me is after a couple of events in, people were reaching out to me directly saying, can I be a part of the next one? Can I be involved? And these were people coming from outside of London. People coming out from East London, from South London, and saying, hey, do you mind if is there an opportunity? And I was always thinking very Hounslow-centric, like, no, this is for our people in the borough and this, that, and the other. But actually, no, it's creativity is boundless. It's, it should be without borders, and you should allow people to come in and then build further connection, because that enriches the borough even more. So sorry, it's a very long answer. I've even forgotten
No,
what the
that's
question
great.
was, but it just was a journey of friendship, art,
course.
connection, and just, would not have been possible without the support of those people I mentioned, and kind of the enthusiasm of the creatives as well.
And those events, I think, are your legacy, I think. You're not done yet. I know you're not done yet. But, you're known for those events. You're known for the emails that, you send out.
Emails and events.
People. And it goes such a long way. Like, I know you were saying just before we started recording that the lady who was replying to every... I mean, when I say that you sent a lot of emails, you sent a lot of emails. Not spamming, but, it's... Everything was an opportunity. Everything was an event. Everything was someone doing something that you wanted people to know more about.
It raises two things. One is, hey, if one guy can send 5-6 emails a week simply sharing events, workshops, exhibitions, promo, call outs, funding opportunities, educational opportunities, networking events, and just letting the people know, it begs the question of why was this not already in place beforehand, and why was this not as consistent as it needed to be? And then on the side, it shows, hey, emails kind of work. I know we live in a very digitalized society where it's IG Reels, TikToks, barely anyone picks up the phone anymore, but people check their emails and it works. And I made a conscious effort to make them personable. I made a conscious effort to make them structured in a way that people, even if they're scrolling through, saw the link to purchase a ticket or to register for something, saw the costs involved, saw the location, the timing, the dates, and all sorts. And it really, really worked. And the feedback that we got, from those emails was so heartwarming. People were giving me call outs for sitar players for an audiobook recording. People were reaching out saying, do you know a Zumba coach? We've lost a Zumba coach. Do you know where I can get a funding opportunity? Or do you know where I can promote my work? Or do you know a venue I can use? And as those emails were growing, more and more people were getting involved. So I would love to take credit for these emails, but it's nothing without the actual creatives and community groups themselves reaching out to me and saying, hey, can you kind of share this and whatnot. So it was definitely a team effort. And I definitely learned a lot through those emails, knowing that, okay, this is a very simple way to just let people know. And then when I then attend these events, they go, oh yeah, I got your email about this. Because then I still approach it like, no one's going to read them. And then when you go somewhere and you see, oh, wait, hold on. Why is that person there? Oh, okay. How did you hear about that? And it's just, again, it's so simple. And I wish the local governance, local organizations would capitalize on that more, because people do check their emails. And it is just a very simple way to market and communicate with your ecosystems, whether it's for volunteer groups, creatives, business, whatever. So that and the events were just a real joy. The events felt like a playground. Meet people, connect, and just, and we weren't limited. Again, big shout out to Anima and Umbika and her team for allowing this. We weren't limited. Like, every idea that I'd come across, saying, okay, look, can I have 4 artists scattered here, and in that room, can we have another artist? Cool, let's do it. Okay, look, we've created these short films. How do we screen them? Cool, we'll get a projector, we'll do this, we'll do that. Hey, we want to do a digital detox, no phones. Yep, let's do it. We'll create this area of the venue and do this, and we'll use this part to do this. So that proactiveness was a learning curve, because Hounslow's biggest problem outside of marketing, and maybe it's the misperception of the borough. Again, shout out to Purchase Word and Kai and Johnny, who came up with this line. A borough beloved and misjudged. So
that's exactly spot on.
Exactly that. And outside of the lack of marketing, we do not have those venues. We do not have those spaces. We're in a lovely podcast studio right now, but there are not many of them in Hounslow. There are not many spaces to exhibit your artwork, or to learn the violin, or to practice graphic design and all that sort of stuff. And So I thought, okay, we have to find venues. And 9 times out of 10, you go to a place that's like a cafe or a bar or a restaurant and go, hey, would you mind flipping this on its head for a bit? And I think that's a model that can definitely be explored, where you can bridge gaps between businesses and artistic communities, because businesses want people through the door. And if you can get a community of artists or people through the door, it creates a buzz, it adds a bit of shine to your venue. But bridging that gap was really important, and I would not have been able to do those Hounslow Connects events without reaching out to venues like Anima and making those sort of things happen. So hopefully that sparks a bit more in the borough in terms of venues realising, you know, that, okay, actually, we can convert this into this, we can do this. A big shout out to my boy, a very good friend of mine, Manu from House of AEIOU. He's been doing something very similar what I was doing in Hounslow, but in Southall, very, you know, in the Ealing Borough. Rich with history, rich with culture, so much diversity when it comes to ethnicity, cuisine, music, all those sorts of things. And he's been doing something very similar. Again, and I bring this up just to replicate how that model works. If you can find businesses and spaces and just pitch it in the right way, that you'll get people through the door, it all of a sudden opens up possibilities to have a poetry night, to have a music night, to have a workshop, you know. So Manu's been doing the same in Southall with some venues and creating those evenings and nights and whatnot. And people are hungry. Yeah. People are hungry to go to these places. We were discussing, you know, before we went on air, like, not everyone's going to Central London anymore. No. It's becoming expensive. It's becoming very saturated. It's not getting the kind of activity it once did back in the day. And people are looking for alternative spaces and kind of more community-based spaces.
It brings people out to the woodwork, I think.
Yes.
In the nicest possible way. That's, you know, there's so many people who are creatives.
Yeah.
Who live in Hounslow, perhaps don't work creatively in Hounslow, but they live in Hounslow. Yeah. And at these events, you know, like there was that lady who, I can't remember her name, but she was the documentary maker for the BBC World Service, I think.
Okay. Nora Bida.
That's
wonderful artist and creative.
Right.
Yeah. Just shout out to Nora.
Yeah, just kind of stumbled upon her, you know, again in the nicest way. Just she was at one of these events and exhibiting some of her work. You just start to, you just like, oh wow, that's cool. You live in Hounslow.
She's one of many stories, and when I was coming to the end of my tenure with this role, she sent me a very beautiful email. I won't go into all the details of it, but it made me in the work I've done feel valued. Essentially, she said that I had helped her be seen as an artist.
Yeah.
And that really hit home. I was so touched by, you know, her saying that. She'd been working with CPP and doing some work in one of the community spaces, I believe Salisbury Cafe in Hounslow West, where she was exhibiting. We were coming up to the next Hounslow Connects, and I really liked her work. She specialises in watercolour sort of painting and telling stories about home and what is home, what is the meaning of home. And we connected. She was open to being a part of one of the Hounslow Connects events in collaboration with SheWise. And her work was great. She made it very interactive. And then also she was part of one of the digital detox events we did, which I believe not called Hounslow Disconnects.
Okay.
Get away from the digital,
right.
you know, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And she did a workshop there that loads of people attended and found very therapeutic. And, you know, but you see how, like, that one connection can then lead to a trickle-down effect, all these different activations. And, you know, look, I literally grew up with people saying Hounslow was a shithole.
Yeah.
That's literally what I was raised around.
Yeah.
And I was very blessed that to be around creative individuals, very close to home as well, because I come from a family of chefs, and a family of DJs.
Right.
And I don't know how people view the word artist or creative, but a lot of the time it seems to be limited to kind of like art, playing an instrument, and maybe fashion. but actually, or drama and theatre,
Right.
but it's actually very broad. And I'll touch on how broad it is, especially in Hounslow. But being around DJs, being around chefs who are constantly cooking and creating things up, you know, my brothers and I were thinking like, hey, where do we go to create music? Where do we go to create content? And we just jumped into our family's catering unit.
Okay.
And we've recorded podcasts there. Yeah. We've created music videos there. We've done DJ sets there, fashion pop-ups there. And this is in Heston, in a commercial kitchen that you wouldn't even see if you drove past it. And that's because we were looking for the space. We go, the spaces don't exist, we'll find them. And that sort of kind of hustle culture is quite prevalent around Hounslow. People are like, okay, we'll make it happen ourselves. But when you've got infrastructure against you, budgets against you, not enough organizations that are kind of supporting you, if it's not hitting, all of a sudden it's quite demoralizing, and you kind of then end up going, we need to venture out, and people leave the borough. So it's a wild one. And then eventually to find those spaces is a testament to those creatives and those people who have made it happen. But we still need more in Hounslow. We still need more spaces. Otherwise, people are going to just kind of start leaving. And Hounslow's a shithole. I can't keep going to East London. These are the phrases that we've been around. And it was just nice to be in some new spaces in the borough, people coming through. We've got high quality content being created. We're showcasing the best of the best to a certain extent. Really what it means to be from a diverse borough, and really shining a light on people like Noor and others.
So it's funded through Arts Council money.
Yeah.
Do you get choice of how that money is spent?
So for those who don't know, the Arts Council of England funds creative people and places across the country, and I'll just call them projects. Let's just call them projects for now. So they try to identify areas that are lacking in culture and creativity and kind of like art activations. So they find boroughs where, let's just say, cultural and creative activity is low. Hounslow is one of those places. Very low, actually. Hounslow is very low. And the money is then given to CPP in that particular regional area or town, whatever, borough. And then essentially you are tasked with bringing culture and creativity to marginalized communities in those areas. And it gets political. There are issues with budgets, but you do get a defined budget that you go, hey, you are getting X amount to do this, and this. Here's the budget for employees of CPP. Here's the budget to deliver these types of events, to deliver these types of things. The problem with the Hounslow CPP, and I can't speak to many other CPPs, is it's been quite rigid since its inception. And that comes down to recruitment, direction, strategy, and marketing, which I'm sure many projects, businesses, those sort of challenges go through. The issue with the Hounslow CPP is that it hasn't really evolved. And that is not to discredit or discount any of the people that have worked for that organization, any of the actual output of the work of those people, because when I mean they've gone to council estates and done arts and crafts for people who don't have access to it. They have provided outdoor cinemas, they have provided talent shows, they have provided opportunities on high streets to showcase work and connect and stuff. But it's not been enough. It's not been enough, and it's been quite disconnected. Disconnected because I feel over time, people who have worked there maybe haven't got a proper sense of the needs of the borough. And Hounslow CPP was very Brentford-centric. very Feltham-centric at times. And despite having local advisory groups, attendance was low, commitment was low, and it just, for me, was not fully representative of the borough behind me. Now, I was in a dual space where I'm a resident, a motivated resident, and then I'm working within the confinements of those organizations to now go, cool, how do we do something or make an impact? Because despite Hounslow CPP being around for 10 plus years, or let's just say a very long time, I'm coming across people that don't know who they are or what they do, which again is sad because there are people actually doing good work. There are people trying to make a difference, but it hasn't been marketed, it hasn't been pushed out properly, and the strategy to reach people, for me, wasn't there. And I tried to incorporate that with the work that I was doing. And this is not a reflection on all the other CPPs, because if you do your homework, other CPPs have changed their name. They've got a clear direction. Maybe they focus on one single area. They have their own website, email feeds, all those sort of things. And we didn't really have those things. So we were really, really up against the segmentation of the borough, then the perception of the borough, a borough beloved but misjudged, then the idea that people just think that there was nothing going on in Hounslow, and then the marketing side of it as well. So not actually pushing it out. Again, not to discredit the good work that people are doing, but you could see structurally that I don't think strategically it was being pushed forward in the way that I thought was the best way. And you can look at snippets of the Hounslow Connects activations and the emails that I was sending out, that actually, if you just kind of structuralize things and focus on representing stories, you can actually really start to build that ecosystem and really build some credentials within that ecosystem. Because my hope was that we could really run this to a point where, I'm not saying Hounslow became Soho or becomes Shoreditch or something like that, but all of a sudden, Hounslow known for a few clusters of venues and activations and poetry nights and exhibitions and graphic design workshops and all those sorts of things, like the Creative Exchange event that, that you very kindly were a part of, where we were sharing knowledge on funding and all sorts of other things, help people find their voice. So the CPP structure, in principle, as an idea, is beautiful and is necessary, because there are marginalized communities up and down the country that need art, that need creativity, that need workshops, that need spaces to paint. Because as a society, our anxiety is increasing, our paranoia is increasing. We are constantly comparing ourselves to what we're seeing on social media. And a lot of us need therapy. And art is therapy. It's a form of storytelling, it's a form of expression, it's a form of diving into your vulnerabilities and putting them on into a song, into a poem, onto a page, onto a canvas or whatever. So not only do those marginalized communities need that access, it's crucial to their well-being. And that's why I think CPPs are doing great work up and down the country. I just feel the CPP that's in my borough needs some serious rejigging and some serious freshening up, coming into, a more modern Hounslow. And it's not all on CPP. I think Hounslow Council could be doing more.
Right.
Culture team could be doing more. I think there are other organisations that could be lending a hand. I think the Creative Enterprise Zone, if with more direction from the Mayor's office, could bridge a gap between CPP. Because right now we've got the culture team at Hounslow Council, the Creative Enterprise Zone, which is a small team, and then you've got CPP, which is also a small team. And the borough is huge. And all three of those organisations have different objectives and different boxes to tick. Because when you've been funded, whether it's through the council or through Arts Council of England or whatever, you've got to tick those boxes.
Right.
Now, my argument to that is, are the right boxes being ticked? And I don't mean prioritising the list of objectives, I'm saying, are they the right objectives? Are they looking at it in the right manner? Are they thinking about the needs of the people that they're trying to serve, rather than just tick the boxes and click numbers at events and go, hey, we had 5,000 people here, we had 100 people here, and you get funding for the next year? Are you asking the right questions? Are you asking and involving the right people in your consultations? Are you connecting with people who are actually in the thick of it and in the fabric of the creative ecosystem in Hounslow? And again, people hearing this who are not from the borough will maybe be shocked that I'm saying words like Hounslow's ecosystem or the Hounslow's creative community or something like that, because they'll think, wait, what? That area has a...
Right.
But I've met people who are sculptors, who sculpt, work with wood, people who paint, people who are graphic designers, people who are architects and interior designers, people who are aspiring singers and musicians, people who are just a vast range of creatives. And it shocked me, and I was like, I'm so happy this exists. And then I was like, wish I could shine more light on it. But structurally, CPP needs a freshness of new ideas. And this is something that I said when I was there. This is something that I said in meetings, and but there was pushback. Not everyone likes change. Not everyone is open to change. People like to play by the rules and stick to things. But art has never played by the rules. And the irony of this whole thing is that if you actually embrace a bit of disruption, if you embrace a bit of risk, if you embrace a rejigging of budgets to maybe involve content creation and getting the voices out there, all of a sudden, who benefits? The community benefits, the organizations benefit, local governance looks better, And not to make this political, but one shame about Hounslow Connects was I reached out to a lot of councillors, a lot of people from council departments, a lot of the councillors who run different wards, and said, hey, this is important for you to be at,
Of course.
because I know you want our votes, but this is a very light touch way to build friendships within a different side of the borough, and show that you're active and proactive. And not many, hardly any councillors came through, which is unfortunate, but not exactly surprising. And again, the same way I was praising CPP but also criticising them, I'll do the same for the council. The culture team, again, I won't name names, but the culture team does good work. They try and put on events, and they try and get people active in high streets and in areas where things aren't happening. But they also need support. They need the right support. They need the right budgets. They need the right team to help actually shine a light on the work that they're doing. And I know many councils up and down the country, especially Hounslow Council, gets a bad rap, for certain things, but there are people within those organisations trying to make a difference, trying to move the needle. And that's what I said when I started my role. I said, I just want to move the needle. I want to make an impact and kind of just, start something. And so I want people who are hearing this and maybe know nothing about Hounslow, people who are Hounslow residents listening to this, saying, there are good people. There are some really, really great people who are trying to do good work. But there's not enough oomph behind the infrastructure to really, rise those ships that I was talking about, really use those artists and creatives to help shine the borough in the right way. Like I said, we mentioned Noor, we mentioned people like Umbika who've had the venue to create that space. There's a lot of people out there trying to make a difference, trying to tell their story. And, I just wish the powers that be and the structure was conducive to that. And I feel it's not conducive to that, unfortunately. Yeah.
So when I think about CPP saying run for, say it's 10 years, do you have to report back each year who's being bought into that creativity to allow yourself to receive the funding for the following year, or is it 10 years guaranteed?
It's you have to submit an application to the Arts Council of England, which essentially that application is a mixture of your future objectives and I'd imagine the work you've already done. Because I know I have to report on the events that I've done and the activations I've done, or how many people are on the network and what's going on, etc. And then obviously CPP has other areas, people who are working with local advisory groups, program director who's managing and strategizing over things, all that. So you have a structure of someone like myself who's a network coordinator, people who are community arts workers who are focusing on the local advisory groups. Then you've got people who run the visual arts program. There's little components, and then you've got a consortium which is meant to keep that in check. And I'll come back to the consortium in shortly after. But yes, there is a report or a submission that needs to be made that emphasizes the work you want to do and the work you've done, and then you're hoping you get the budget that you that you want. That budget or how that moves is somewhat, I wouldn't say dictated, but maneuvered by the consortium. And I will say this point blank, that consortium is not representative of the borough.
Right.
And it needs a genuine freshening up. It's not reflective. I think it's somewhat out of touch a lot as well. And if you're out of touch and you're not willing to evolve with ideas and freshness, you are going to struggle to connect with people. And that's the biggest problem with the organization. That are they connecting with enough people? Are they connecting with enough of the borough? And again, a lot of us were on low salaries, part-time work. So how much work can you actually do within the confinements? Not everyone is a worker of CPP and a resident of the borough they're trying to serve. So I had extra added motivation. It wasn't a problem for me, but that's not everyone's situation. So that's why I feel we have to zoom out to really look at the structure and go, okay, who's being recruited, with what skills and with what objectives, and are those objectives reflected in what you're submitting for funding, and what you're submitting reflective of the people you're trying to serve? And that's really what it really comes down to. So, yeah, you have to report, you have to show what the work you've done, and then what the work you're trying to do. And then that keeps you ticking for another 2, 3, 4 years or whatever. Right. And then I don't know what the exact cycle is, but then you then do the same again.
Yeah.
I will say, because it sounds like I've been quite critical of Hounslow CPP, but I think those who are there know what I feel and would echo a lot of these sentiments and whatnot. But what I will also say is we lost the Waterman's building. Right. So that was another battle of whether it's gentrification or not being able to sustain itself. Again, that was like a bit of a hub for CPP. We did a lot of activations there, but it wasn't sustainable. I don't know all the finances of it, but it wasn't able to be. It had a cinema there and things, and it just wasn't. I don't think it was generating the revenues it needed to keep the lights on, which is a shame because historically that venue has not only been crucial for the Brentford community in terms of arts and culture and theatre productions and things of that nature, but if you go back into the 90s, that was a very important venue for the South Asian community. We would have productions and theatre groups and poetry and all sorts from people from Pakistan and India and up and down the country coming to this hub in Hounslow. And yeah, so it's just a shame that is no longer there, and that obviously hit CPP quite hard because, like I said, we're already having a venue problem. Then you lose your home, all of a sudden, things become a bit more difficult. So I'm not here to point the finger at people and to go, this person's bad, this person is doing it wrong or whatever. It's just the whole system needs a rejig. It needs a restructuring. And if Arts Council are listening, it's more to kind of frame. Look, at the end of the day, when it comes to organizations, institutions, budgets, all that sort of stuff, there's a framework you have to operate in. So the way I would phrase this for them is, we need to reassess the evaluation framework.
Right.
We need to reassess and cross-reference the objectives when giving money out. And again, I'm not saying money's been wasted, but money could have been redirected and put to better use in different spaces and in different communities and so forth.
Yeah.
So yeah, a rejigging of the system is required, I feel strongly. Because
No, go on.
anyone we've spoken off camera, we've spoken at events, you know the kind of challenges I've faced with those events. Those events were done on like a peanut budget. It literally required me to cold email and really ask people to come through and really sell the opportunities for the artists to go, hey, there's no pitch fee, set up here, sell what you want, get your work out there, I'll get you all the photos, the videos, whatever, you know. So we were up against it to make it happen, but it shows that even with that small amount of effort, okay, I won't call it smaller, that amount of effort can produce big results. So a little bit of redirection, a little bit of putting the money in the right place, all of a sudden, you know, if I'm playing devil's advocate here, if I'm a creative in the borough, I'm asking where is this money going? If I'm a creative looking for opportunities, I'm asking where is this money going? Who is getting the opportunities? Who's getting the commissioned work? And things of that nature. You know, so it's a tough one. It really is. It's like a double-edged sword at times. It's because you see the work they're doing. Like I've been in the council estates doing outdoor cinemas. I've been in some areas where people need the artwork. They need those activations, and you know, I've seen, you know, former colleagues put their heart in their work and really connect with people and make a difference. You know, some of the work that CPP has done on the high street, where regular residents, or Hounslow High Street specifically, where regular residents are just walking through, and then there'll be a table for kids to paint and draw. There'll be activations happening where people can involve themselves in immersive artistic activations. We did a wonderful event for a thing called Public Trust, which was where we basically, people passing by would come and make a promise to us, and we'd put this promise on a massive board for the whole high street to see. And then every time there was a new promise, you change it and this, that, and the other, and you're talking to people about their stories, and you're talking to people about their vulnerabilities, and you know, this is bang in the high street, sunshine, you're just sitting at a table, and you know, it's therapeutic. It's friendship building. It's wonderful. And so again, you know, I'll keep saying this. Yes, I'm criticizing the structure and the framework of which CPP operates, specifically in Hounslow, but I'm not discrediting the wonderful work people have done, and often out of hours. It's not 9 to 5 per se. It's like, hey, we're here on Thursday evening, and you're setting up an outdoor cinema, and you're not sure if it's going to rain or not. You're on the high street, and okay, how do we stop people who are trying to just go for their shopping or this, that, and the other? So, you know, on the high street on a Saturday afternoon or late on a Sunday afternoon, you know. So I credit everyone who's you know, put their heart and soul into their work. But I need to, if it was me, I would slash this system down and restructure it and get some more voices who are representative of the people in that borough.
Disconnected Bodies are a social enterprise working to improve access to art, culture and heritage. We support innovative projects and guide innovative people to choose, create or take part in brilliant art experiences. Our commitment to widening cultural access and democratising the arts has seen us become innovators within the industry. Visit disconnectedbodies.co or find us on social media.